The bunny is a thief!
Friday nights in the early 70s meant gathering around the television to watch a family travel the country in a psychedelic bus, singing their hearts out. The Partridge Family became a cultural phenomenon, but even devoted fans might have overlooked some fascinating details. So buckle up and climb aboard, because we're about to explore 25 small details you missed in the Partridge Family. Number 25. The show had 2 different theme songs.
Don't put that drumstick up your nose.
Why not?
You don't know where it's been. Gloria's father phoned to say that she has the mumps.
Most people remember belting out the words to the upbeat opening tune. But did you know the Partridge Family actually had 2 different theme songs? The first season featured When We're Singin', with music by Wes Farrell, and lyrics by Diane Hilderbrand. This version was more of a traditional sitcom theme in the style of shows like Gilligan's Island, introducing the family and explaining their story right from the opening line. Come on now and meet everybody and hear us singin'. It laid out the plot in an old-fashioned expository way that television audiences of the era expected. From the second season onward, the more familiar Come On Get Happy took over, written by Wes Farrell and Danny Jansen. While the melody stayed similar, the lyrics completely changed to focus more on the upbeat message of spreading joy and love, rather than explaining who the family was. This became the version that's burned into the memories of generations of viewers with its infectious, "Hello world, hear the song that we're singing, come on, get happy." The ending theme also got a complete makeover, switching from a brassy, jazzy instrumental arrangement to a softer, more mellow instrumental version of the new theme song. Both versions featured David Cassidy's vocals, showcasing his natural talent from the very beginning. Number 24. The bus was inspired by a famous Dutch artist. That iconic multicolored bus wasn't just randomly painted by some over-enthusiastic hippie with a can of spray paint. The design was actually inspired by Dutch artist Piet Mondrian's distinctive style, particularly his 1921 painting Composizione. Mondrian, who lived from 1872 to 1944, was a leader in the De-style art movement, known for using the simplest combinations of straight lines, right angles, and blocks of primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, along with black, white, and gray. His paintings embodied a spiritual belief in a harmonious cosmos through their extreme formal purity. The show's set designers took this sophisticated, high art aesthetic and transformed it into the perfect whimsical vehicle for a traveling family band. It's quite a cultural leap from Dutch proto-modernism to suburban California rock and roll, but somehow it worked perfectly. The geometric blocks of bright primary colors against white became instantly recognizable and helped give the show its visual identity. That bus was second only to David Cassidy himself in terms of what made the Partridge Family memorable. You could spot that Mondrian-inspired paint job from a mile away, which was exactly the point for a family trying to make it big in the music business. Number 23. The real bus cost only $500.
I guess I should have too.
Oh, Chris.
Me too.
Well, since we're gonna stop it.
Speaking of that famous bus, the production company didn't break the bank to acquire what would become one of television's most iconic vehicles. Screen Gems purchased the 1955 Chevrolet 6800 Superior school bus directly from the Orange County School District in California for the bargain price of around $500. The Superior Coach Company had been making school bus bodies since 1909, primarily on Chevrolet, Dodge, Ford, and International Harvester truck chassis, so this was a well-built vehicle despite its modest price tag. In the show's pilot episode, there's a charming scene where the family buys the bus from a used car dealer named Al at his used car lot. The kids are excited about transforming the old yellow school bus into their tour vehicle, and we see them painting it themselves. But in reality, it came straight from a school district looking to offload old equipment that had outlived its usefulness for transporting children. The studio got quite a bargain, considering that bus would become worth far more in cultural value and television history than anyone could have imagined at the time. Number 22. The bus met a sad end.
What's the matter with you? Why'd you feel guilty?
For not rehearsing. Maybe if we went over that new song a couple more times this afternoon, we can...
After the show wrapped in March 1974, the beloved bus didn't retire to a museum or get lovingly restored by a collector. Instead, it was repainted white, covering up all that beautiful Mondrian-inspired artwork, and used on another television series called Apple's Way, which filmed on the same lot. From there, the bus entered a long, slow decline into obscurity. It ended up parked behind Lucy's Tacos on Martin Luther King Boulevard, near the University of Southern California, where it sat deteriorating for over a decade. The windows were broken, the tires went flat, and all the identifying marks, including the family name on the side and the "Caution Nervous Mother Driving" sign on the back, were painted over in white. The rest of the bus's once vibrant paint job miserably faded under the California sun. In February 1987, when the restaurant decided to repave their parking lot, the bus was finally towed away to a junkyard in horrible shape. Despite several tribute buses and copycats appearing over the years, making it hard to authenticate any claimed original bus, the actual Partridge family bus is believed to have been scrapped. It's a sad ending for such an iconic piece of television history, but at least it lives on in our memories and in every episode of the show. Number 21. Shirley Jones turned down the Brady Bunch.
I know. He was thrown out of the cavalry for being rude to Apaches.
Before accepting the role of Shirley Partridge, actress Shirley Jones was actually offered the part of Carol Brady on The Brady Bunch. This is one of those fascinating what-if moments in television history. Both shows premiered in the fall of 1970 as part of the new Friday night lineup, and both became beloved classics. But Jones passed on the Brady opportunity without much hesitation. Her reason was refreshingly frank for the era. She didn't want to spend all her scenes in the kitchen making sandwiches and being a stereotypical housewife. She felt the character was too one-dimensional and limiting for an actress of her caliber. Jones found the Partridge family role far more appealing for several reasons. First, Shirley Partridge was portrayed as the first working mother on television. She quits her bank teller job not to stay home, but to join her kids' band and help them pursue their dreams. Second, and perhaps most importantly for someone with Jones's background in musical theater, she got to sing. Jones had made her name on Broadway and in movie musicals like Oklahoma and Carousel, so using her vocal talents was a natural fit. She'd even won an Academy Award for Elmer Gantry in 1961. The Partridge family let her combine acting with music, which was far more interesting to her than making sandwiches for Mike Brady. Number 20. David Cassidy and Shirley Jones were actually related.
Clear. You are to leave Laurie and Howard alone, understood? No more spying.
The show wasn't just playing make-believe when it came to the family connection between Keith and Shirley Partridge. David Cassidy was the real-life stepson of Shirley Jones, which added an extra layer of authenticity to their on-screen relationship. Jones was married to David's father, Jack Cassidy, a successful stage and film actor who had his own impressive career in musical theater and television. David was initially surprised and somewhat uncomfortable to see Shirley on set when he first arrived. His relationship with his stepmother had been somewhat rocky and complicated, as step-family relationships often are, especially when dealing with the complexities of show business families. However, working together on the Partridge family 5 days a week for 4 years brought them much closer. The long hours on set, the shared experience of sudden fame, and the challenges they faced together helped strengthen their real-life bond. Jones later said that she was devastated when the show ended, not just because it was the end of a successful series, but because it meant the end of that daily time together with David and the rest of the cast. She described them as truly becoming a family, even though the cameras stopped rolling. Number 19. The first Chris Partridge was replaced due to behavior issues.
Great, but don't expect Dinah Shore.
Who?
Jeremy Gelbwaks played the youngest Partridge son, Chris, during the first season. When viewers tuned in for season 2, they might have noticed something different. Chris Partridge suddenly had blonde hair instead of brown. Jeremy had been replaced by Brian Forster, who would play the role for the remaining 3 seasons of the show. The official story given to the public was that the Gelbwaks family had moved away, which was a polite Hollywood fiction designed to save face. The truth, according to the cast and crew, was quite different and less pleasant. Gelbwaks had serious behavior problems on set and didn't get along with anyone. Not the adult actors, not the crew members, and especially not his fellow child actor Danny Bonaduce. Danny later admitted on Behind the Music that he wasn't above kicking Jeremy before they would film a scene together. The working environment had become untenable, and the producers made the decision to recast. What's remarkable is that the network received absolutely no mail about the recasting. Not a single viewer wrote in to ask what happened to the brown-haired Chris or to complain about the change. This suggests that viewers either didn't notice the switch, didn't care, or simply accepted it as one of those things that happens in television. Brian Forster, on the other hand, got along fine with everyone and had a much smoother experience on the show. Number 18. Danny Bonaduce had dyslexia.
No better, I'd say you were jealous. No, I've outgrown the need to have women falling at my feet.
Young Danny Bonaduce struggled enormously with his lines when the show first began, and nobody could figure out why. He once needed a remarkable 36 takes to complete a relatively simple scene that should have been straightforward. Script readings were an absolute nightmare for him. He could barely make it through them, stumbling over words and losing his place constantly. The cast and crew were initially frustrated and confused by these difficulties. Eventually, someone discovered that Danny had dyslexia, a learning disorder that made reading and learning lines through traditional methods incredibly difficult for a child his age. This was in the early 1970s, when dyslexia wasn't as well understood or accommodated as it is today. However, once they found alternative ways to help him learn his lines, working with him verbally rather than relying solely on reading the script, they discovered he possessed an absolutely remarkable photographic memory. Danny could remember every single line in an entire episode once he'd learned it through his preferred method. Even more impressively, he would remember everyone else's lines too, and would actually correct other cast members when they made mistakes or forgot their dialogue. His memory was so sharp that he became like a walking script supervisor. What initially seemed like a liability turned out to be an extraordinary gift, once the adults around him figured out how to work with his unique learning style. It's a wonderful example of how different minds work in different ways, and how challenges can sometimes mask hidden strengths. Number 17. Shirley Jones once forgot Danny wasn't really her son.
No, Danny, it doesn't sound too promising.
Why not?
Somehow, I just can't take any.
Danny Bonaduce was well liked but notorious for acting up on set. He was, after all, still a child trying to navigate sudden fame. One day, the maternal Shirley Jones became so exasperated with his behavior that she forgot herself and ordered him upstairs to his room. Of course, the set didn't actually have an upstairs, and she wasn't really his mother. The cast got a good laugh out of Jones's momentary confusion between reality and their television world. Number 16. Susan Dey had a secret crush on David Cassidy.
Colleges. How do you make up your mind where to go?
Depends on what you want.
Right. If you want to catch a rich guy.
Behind the scenes, Susan Dey harbored deep, unrequited feelings for her on-screen brother, David Cassidy. There was only a 2-year age difference between them. Susan was born in 1952 and David in 1950, so they were close in age and naturally became friends when the show began. For Susan, however, those feelings ran much deeper than friendship. She fell hard for her handsome co-star, who was quickly becoming America's biggest teen idol. David, comfortable in his role as big brother both on and off screen, saw Susan only as a sister and never reciprocated her romantic feelings during the show's entire run. In what must have been torture for the young actress, David would regale Susan with detailed accounts of his romantic adventures with fans and groupies who pursued him relentlessly. He had no idea how much each story hurt her, how every tale of another girl broke her heart a little more. Susan never told him how she felt, suffering in silence through 4 seasons of friendly chatter about other women. Shirley Jones, with her maternal eye, eventually noticed Susan's pain and decided to do something about it. She told David about Susan's long-held feelings, hoping to spare the young actress some heartache. After the series ended in 1974, David and Susan did attempt a brief romantic relationship. However, it didn't work out. Perhaps too much time had passed, or perhaps the reality couldn't match up to Susan's years of fantasizing. David later wrote about the relationship in his autobiography, describing it in what Susan felt was far too much detail. The two are reportedly not on speaking terms today, a sad ending to what started as a close friendship. Number 15. Susan Dey struggled with an eating disorder.
Tell me America's sex symbol can't get a date.
It's no use. You can't make me feel any more miserable.
The sudden fame took a toll on young Susan Dey. She developed insecurities about her appearance and began a restrictive diet that led to significant weight loss. Susan only realized how serious the problem had become when one of her on-screen brothers told her she looked terribly thin. The pressure of being a teenage television star, combined with her unrequited feelings for David Cassidy, created an emotionally difficult environment for the young actress. Number 14. Only 2 cast members actually sang.
Mom, that's the oldest excuse in the world.
Did you make him walk home?
While the show portrayed all the Partridge Kids as talented musicians singing in perfect harmony, the reality behind those catchy tunes was quite different. Only David Cassidy and Shirley Jones actually sang on the studio recordings that were released as Partridge Family albums and singles. The rest of the cast, Susan Day, Danny Bonaduce, Suzanne Crowe, and both actors who played Chris, simply lip-synced when they appeared to be singing on screen. The real vocals came from a group of professional session singers known as the Ron Hicklin Singers, which included brothers John and Tom Baylor, Ron Hicklin himself, and Jackie Ward. Ward had actually had her own hit record back in 1963 under the name Robin Ward when Wonderful Summer reached number 14 on the charts. These professional vocalists brought years of experience and training to create those tight harmonies that backed up David's lead vocals. Behind the singers was an even more legendary group of musicians. The instrumental tracks were performed by elite session musicians who became known as the Wrecking Crew. This wasn't their official name, but rather a nickname for the group of Los Angeles session musicians who played on countless hit records throughout the 60s and 70s. These were the same musicians who had worked with everyone from the Beach Boys to Frank Sinatra. Their professional expertise is what gave the Partridge Family records that polished, radio-ready sound that helped several songs become genuine hits. Suzanne Crowe, who played Tracy, later described the fictional group as the original Milli Vanilli, a reference to the lip-syncing scandal that would rock the music world years later. Number 13. David Cassidy almost didn't get to sing.
Keith, you're no cat burglar.
Did you tell her?
Tell who what?
What's all this noise?
Originally, David Cassidy was supposed to lip-sync along with the rest of the young cast members. However, David convinced music producer Wes Farrell that he could actually sing and should be allowed to perform the vocals. Farrell agreed, and David became the lead singer on all the Partridge Family recordings. This decision proved fortuitous, as David's voice became one of the show's most marketable assets and helped launch his solo career. Number 12. They beat the Beatles on the charts.
I'm not trying to convert anybody. They just asked us to sing at a rally.
Yeah, well, you sing at that rally and you'll regret it.
What do you mean?
The Partridge Family's biggest hit, I Think I Love You, went straight to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart when it was released in 1970, and it stayed there for 3 weeks. But here's the truly remarkable part. The song actually outsold the Beatles' final single, Let It Be, and knocked it off the top spot on the charts. Think about that for a moment. A fictional television family beat the most famous and influential band in history, the group that had dominated popular music for the entire decade of the 60s. For the Partridge Family to accomplish this feat was quite extraordinary. I Think I Love You became the best-selling single of 1970, moving over 5 million copies. The song was written by Tony Romeo, and it perfectly captured that bubbly, innocent feeling of discovering new love. Even the most jaded music critics had to admit it was an incredibly catchy, well-crafted pop song. The opening ba 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 hook was impossible to get out of your head once you'd heard it. The success proved that the show had tapped into something real in popular culture. It wasn't just a television gimmick. The music genuinely connected with millions of people. The song's success also helped cement David Cassidy's status as a legitimate teen idol and proved that there was real money to be made from the show beyond just advertising revenue. Of course, as we'll see in another entry, most of that money didn't actually go to David himself, but that's another story entirely. Number 11. David Cassidy made shockingly little money.
And he's no criminal, so we'll set up a few things around the house for him to steal. When he overcomes the temptation, he'll...
Despite the show's massive success, sold-out concerts, and an avalanche of merchandise bearing his face, David Cassidy was initially making only $600 per week. Let that sink in for a moment. At the peak of the show's popularity in the early 1970s, when David was headlining arena tours that drew tens of thousands of screaming fans, when his face appeared on lunchboxes, posters, magazines, bubblegum cards, and countless other products, when I Think I Love You was the best-selling single in America, he was taking home less than what many middle-class families were earning. The record company and production studio retained nearly all of the profits from both the show and the music. David's managers had signed him to what can only be described as an exploitative contract that gave him almost no share of the merchandising or record sales. His contract also didn't include royalties, and he had absolutely no say in how his name and image were used commercially. Fans were paying money to join his official fan club, but David wasn't seeing a penny of those membership fees either. The situation only changed when David's manager took a closer look at the contracts and discovered a crucial legal loophole. David had signed the original contract when he was only 19 years old. At that time, the legal age of majority in California was 21, which meant the contract he'd signed as a minor wasn't fully enforceable. Armed with this legal technicality, they were able to renegotiate for much better terms, giving David a piece of the profits he'd been generating all along, and a weekly salary that actually matched his level of fame. But for those first crucial years, he'd been working for relative peanuts while making other people rich. It's a stark reminder that being famous and being fairly compensated are two very different things. Number 10. The Partridge house was on famous Blondie Street.
Why not?
Because Snake sleeps with his eyes open, and it makes me nervous when someone snores and stares at me.
The exterior of the Partridge home was filmed at the Warner Brothers Ranch in Burbank, California, on a street officially known as Blondie Street. This nickname came from the early Blondie and Dagwood Bumstead movie serials that were filmed there beginning in the 1940s. The street was part of a 40-acre backlot that had been in use since the mid-20th century and had appeared in countless television shows and films over the decades. Blondie Street was home to numerous famous television houses. If you were a television viewer in the 1960s and 70s, you probably saw these same house facades on multiple different shows without even realizing it. The Bewitched house was there, along with the home of their nosy neighbor, Mrs. Kravitz. The I Dream of Jeannie house was right next door to the Partridges. In fact, 3 feet of Jeannie's front yard had to be removed to widen the Partridge driveway enough to accommodate that big bus. The Dennis the Menace house and the Gidget house were also part of the neighborhood. Even the Griswold house from the Vacation movies was filmed there. Here's a fun fact that makes television history even more interconnected. For 2 seasons, the Partridges and the Kravitz family from Bewitched actually shared the exact same house facade. The Partridge family premiered in 1970, and Bewitched didn't end its run until 1972. So for those 2 years, both shows were filming simultaneously, using the same house exterior for completely different families on completely different series. The magic of television made it work, and viewers never noticed they were watching the same physical structure play 2 different homes. Number 9. The garage scenes were real.
You're both under arrest. The police made me a special deputy.
While the interior home scenes were filmed on a soundstage, the garage where the family practiced their music was the actual garage attached to the exterior house facade. Because both the exterior and the sound stages were located on the same lot, the show was able to feature far more outdoor shots than most sitcoms of the era. Other shows like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie had to create false house fronts on their sound stages because their sets were 20 to 30 minutes away from their exterior locations. Number 8. The house was eventually demolished.
If you were going to test me, at least you could have been more clever.
The famous yellow house with the white picket fence stood for decades after the show ended, appearing in numerous other productions, including The Monster Squad and an episode where it was blown up for Lethal Weapon. It was later used as Meemaw's house on Young Sheldon and was demolished as part of that show's storyline in 2022. The entire Warner Brothers ranch was demolished in 2023 to make way for new sound stages, ending the long history of Blondie Street. Number 7. The pilot episode was different.
Can I help it if I'm a music lover? I just wanted to tell Tracy, don't put that drumstick up.
The very first episode of The Partridge Family stands out as unique for several reasons. It's the only episode that doesn't use any version of the eventual theme songs, instead featuring the song Together, Havin' a Ball by Shorty Rogers and Kelly Gordon. The pilot also lacks the animated main title sequence that would become familiar to viewers. Instead, it showed the Partridge Family singing Together as if performing at a live show. Number 6. There was an unaired pilot.
I understand you got a crush on me. Well, it's not that I...
Actually, you see...
Before the pilot that viewers know, there was actually an earlier, unaired pilot filmed in December 1969. In this version, several key details were different. The mother's name was Connie instead of Shirley, and she had a boyfriend played by Jack Cassidy, David's real father and Shirley Jones's husband at the time. The network requested changes, leading to the pilot that eventually aired in September 1970. Number 5, Jack Cassidy became jealous of the show's success.
Keith's brushing his teeth with it.
Still mad at him, huh?
This time, I think it's
David's father, Jack Cassidy, struggled with the success of the Partridge family. He had been a star of stage and film before becoming overshadowed by his wife and son's television fame. Jack, who battled alcoholism and mental illness, reportedly had difficulty handling the situation. His marriage to Shirley Jones deteriorated, and they divorced in 1975. Tragically, Jack Cassidy died in a fire in his Los Angeles apartment in 1976, caused by one of his own cigarettes. Number 4, a tragedy at a David Cassidy concert changed everything.
You sure know how to make a guy feel welcome.
Sorry, Reuben, I was expecting somebody else.
In 1974, David Cassidy performed at a concert at White City Stadium in London for 35,000 screaming fans. The level of hysteria at his concerts had reached truly frightening proportions by this point in his career. Young girls would faint, cry uncontrollably, and push forward desperately, trying to get closer to their idol. During this particular show on May 26, 1974, the crowd surged forward with tremendous force, creating a crush of bodies pressed together. 800 people were injured as fans lunged forward, unable to control their movement in the packed crowd. Among the injured was 14-year-old Bernadette Whelan, who was caught in the surge and trampled. She never regained consciousness and died 4 days later on May 30, 1974, from her injuries. This tragedy deeply affected David for the rest of his life. He immediately wrote a letter of condolence to Bernadette's family, struggling to process what had happened. In interviews at the time, he said, "My first reaction was that I was totally brought down. I feel responsible, and yet I don't feel responsible." The incident fundamentally changed David's relationship with his career and fame. He stopped touring in large venues, unwilling to risk another such tragedy. In later interviews, he reflected that touring had retarded his growth as a human being, that there was a lot more to him than the public had seen. The death of Bernadette Whelan became a turning point, the moment when David began to seriously question whether being a teen idol was worth the cost. It added a dark shadow to what had seemed like a fairy tale career, a reminder that fame could have consequences far beyond what anyone had imagined when the Partridge Family first aired. Number 3. The show was based on a real family band.
Trouble moving my mouth.
Don't worry about it. It's perfectly normal.
The Partridge Family was loosely based on the Cowsills, a real family band consisting of 6 brothers, a sister, and their mother, who had several hits in the late 1960s. Their song, "The Rain, the Park, and Other Things," was a major success in 1967. The producers initially considered using the actual Cowsills for the show, but decided the children were too old for the roles as written and weren't trained actors. There's debate about whether the Cowsills were actually offered the show, but declined because they wanted their real mother instead of Shirley Jones. Number 2, there was an animated spin-off.
Can't wait to see his face. You want me, Mom? Honey, look what Reuben brought you.
Attempting to keep the magic alive after the show ended, producers created an animated series called Partridge Family 2020 AD. The show was later renamed The Partridge Family in Outer Space. It was similar in concept to The Jetsons, but with music. The family traveled through space having adventures while maintaining their musical career. Unfortunately, the animated version only lasted 1 season before being canceled. It couldn't capture the charm of the original live-action series. Number 1, the cast reunited several times over the years.
Mom, for the first time in my life, I don't know what to say.
Just say what's in your heart, honey.
Despite some rocky relationships and the passage of time, most of the cast has reunited on multiple occasions. In 1977, they gathered with the cast of My Three Sons for a Thanksgiving special. They reunited again in the 1990s on The Arsenio Hall Show and on Danny Bonaduce's talk show, Danny, in 1995. Most cast members participated, though Susan Dey only called in rather than appearing in person, and David Cassidy was unable to attend due to working on a new album. These reunions showed that despite the challenges of their early fame, the cast maintained some connection to their shared experience. The Partridge Family gave us 4 seasons of music and family adventures that continue to resonate decades later. From Mondrian-inspired buses to hidden heartbreaks, these small details remind us there was more to the show than its sunny surface suggested. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, please like and subscribe for more nostalgic looks at classic television. Thanks for watching.